Kim Cameron. I am on the faculty at the University of Michigan Ross School of Business with some of the folks in the room who are my wonderful colleagues. And my good friend, Bob Vallerand. I say Vallerand. Now, in French, it's different. Vallerand. What I want to do is introduce Bob in just a minute to you, but especially I want to acknowledge those who have sponsored these Pause Links lectures, because it does take resources to have that happen. So the University of Michigan Organization Learning Center, Sanger Leadership Center, Tauber Institute for Global Operations, the Zell-Lowry Institute for Entrepreneurial Studies, Lisa and Dave Drews. Where are you? Lisa and Dave, there you are. Great. Thank you. Dave is also an executive in residence in the Center for Positive Organizations, makes a big contribution. And Diane and Paul Jones, who have been helping provide resources for this for several years, are not here. They're otherwise obligated. So we appreciate that sponsorship a lot. What I'd like to do is introduce Bob by telling you not so much about his resume as how I got to know him. I got to know Bob because he was the president of the International Positive Psychology Association. And after he became the president, then we had every other year there's a congress, a worldwide congress. And he got, at the very last minute, we had the program chair fall through, and so he ended up becoming the head single-handedly of an international congress. Anyway, I got to know him then, but more importantly, I got to know him because he is the world's expert. Almost everybody would say he is the world's expert on the topic of passion. Passion doesn't mean romantic passion so much as it means passion at work, passion in life, and you'll learn a lot about that today from him. It's an incredibly exciting set of research studies he's done. I suspect, in addition to that, Bob is probably the most decorated, most recognized Canadian social science scholar. He's a fellow in 12 different professional associations. A year ago, he won the William James Award, Book Award at the American Psychological Association. That is the best book published during the year. And it's called The Psychology of Passion. If you want to know more about that, it's a book you can get. But whenever I get together with Bob, we always talk about basketball. And I learned something. One of them is that when he was a high school player, he was invited to come to a Boston Celtics summer camp, basketball camp. So hopped on the bus, and for the first time, I think, in the United States, an NBA Hall of Fame player for the Boston Celtics, back when they were winning 10 NBA championships in a row, was a guy named Sam Jones, shooting guard on that team. Sam Jones, of all these high school kids coming in, challenged all of them to a game of horse, and of course always won. Except when Bob played Sam Jones, he won. He beat Sam Jones in horse. So I thought, look, we got to have a little, and by the way, the other thing Bob said to me is that he still plays ball, and just the other day he was out shooting from three-point range, hit 18 in a row. Now, I mean, okay, so we're going to have a little test here, Bob. So here are two balls. And you don't have 3 points. Well, I'm excited to introduce my friend Bob Vallerand. Thank you, Bob, for coming. You want this one?
Thanks, man. Thank you so much, Kim. Thanks. This here. Thanks everybody for being here. It's an honor to be here. I was supposed to be here 4 years ago. Kim did not mention this, but I ruptured the Achilles while playing basketball. So we took a rain check, and here I am. I'm very happy to be here. I've managed to speak with a lot of people today. I appreciate all the discussion I've had with Kim, everybody. And because of time constraints, I'll jump right away into some of the stuff I want to talk about. But before, don't forget this. Kim's going to be there. I'm going to be there. So a lot of people in Australia for the World Congress. It's going to be very interesting. Now, positive psych. What is it? Well, the scientific study, most people know this, in the applications that enable individuals and communities to thrive. So one of the factors is passion. And if you don't want to take my word for it, Sid the Kid always had a passion for hockey. Or Bon Jovi, he says, no matter what you do with your life, be passionate. So I guess I could just end my talk right now, right? I mean, that's Bon Jovi and Sid the Kid. But some of the people who have been talking about passion, like Bill Gates, and LeBron, Diana Krall, the Stones. All these people talk about passion. They love what they do, and well, the Stones, this is unbelievable. Now, to put this into perspective, in 4 years from now, if you go and see the Stones, they'll be performing at the age of 80. Rock and roll at the age of 80. And Mick Jagger really covers that stage. And in most regular people, like doing, jogging, and love this picture. Great movie. Teachers and what they do, how they help the kids, people passionate about what they do. At the same time, we know people who are passionate and look like this, or this, and sometimes this. And people who drive so passionate, it drives people crazy. And we all know about Bobby Knight, right? How can you hit your own players? Anyways. And people end up, losing everything because of passion. So the message is that there is a duality of passion. The message out there sometimes is that passion is good. What I say depends. It might be good. But as you'll see, there are two types of passion, and we'll cover that. So what we're going to be looking at is some history, our theory, which is the main theory out there, looking at a multidimensional perspective on outcomes, optimal functioning in societies, and looking at some future directions, and we'll see how it goes. So when we look at the history of passion, we look at the philosophers, and there were two camps. One saying that passion is bad for you. That's the Greeks. Later on, if we jump a few centuries, like the Romantics were saying that, well, actually, passion is good. In fact, Kierkegaard said at some point, life is not worth living without passion. And the Greeks were saying, no, stay away from passion. Wow. And then two authors, very little known authors, Théodule Ribot and André Jussin, in French, wrote two books that said that, well, there might be two types of passion, good and bad, and it depends on how people engage in the activity they're doing. But their work has never been cited until I worked for my book and managed to read those books. Very insightful. Then we jump 50 years. Elaine Hatfield, she was talking about romantic passion that Kim has alluded to, but only looking at it from a more obsessive side. And then Nico Freida said that passion is emotions, but never did any research on it. And we disagree, just like Immanuel Kant that was saying that emotions is not passion. We look at it from a more motivational perspective. And the work of Edward Deci at intrinsic motivation, but then there's not one study out there that shows that intrinsic motivation is bad for you. And we know about the duality of passion, so that cannot explain it. So fast forward another 20 years, and we came up with our own model and theory. And when we started our work, there was nothing in psychology on passion. So we opened up a new field. It was kind of exciting, to say, wow, now we can come up with, different perspective depending on how we see things. And how do we define passion now? Well, we look at passion as a strong inclination, a strong appeal toward a specific activity, or could be an object, could be a person, a belief that we love, value, invest time and energy in, and is part of identity. So I'll just spend a few seconds here. It's not a trait. Most people are passionate for something. 80% of people are passionate for something. It's not a trait. I'm passionate toward music, toward playing the guitar, but I don't like the piano. So even within music, I love basketball. I don't love swimming. So it's very specific. It's the interface between a person and a given activity. Could be also toward an object, a car collection. Could be toward the belief. We've done research on the independence of Quebec. People want to pursue the cause. And it's something that you love, and it's important to you. You highly value it. You spend time on it, and it becomes part of you. I am a scientist. I am a basketball player, although I could not score here today. It's part of me, of who I am. If it's not part of you, then maybe it's something else. Maybe it's some kind of an interest, but it won't be a passion. Now, what we add is that there are two types of passion, depending on how the activity has been internalized in you, how it is part of you. If the activity becomes part of your identity because you love the activity and that's it. The pure love of the activity describes your relationship with the activity. It will lead to harmonious passion. If, on the other hand, in addition to loving the activity, it allows you to get some fringe benefits, being popular at school and so on, it will lead to obsessive passion. Now, obsessive passion is when you have this strong desire to engage in the activity, but at some point, the activity takes control. It controls you. Even when you don't want to do it, you keep on doing it. So it has to run its course. It leads to self-processes that are not as adaptive, mostly ego-involving processes, and it will create conflict with other aspects of your life. It leads to negative emotions, persistence, and limited self-growth. On the other hand, with harmonious passion, the passion is just as strong, but you have a control over it. So you can choose when to do it, when not to do it, and it will lead to more adaptive self-processes, mindfulness, and so on that will allow you to experience those positive emotions and lack of conflict. There won't be conflict with other aspects of your life. And lead to positive emotional experiences and so on. So you can, actually you have your cake and eat it too. You can become quite good at something and still have a life. So these two types of passion are within us because how we internalize the activity is never 100% autonomous or 100% control, a little bit of both. So we do have the two types of passion. At times we can be harmonious, at times we can be obsessive. Generally we have one type of predominant type of passion, harmonious mostly or mostly obsessive, with the different types of outcome they can create. This is the example of some of the items we have on our scale. I have a tough time controlling my urge to do the activity, or have an obsessive feeling for the activity, whereas the activity is in harmony with other activities in my life. That would be an example of our harmonious passion. Some of the methodology we've been using, several studies across the globe. Most people are passionate for something. We're studying also the non-passionate people, very interesting. And we do most of our studies, in the field where passion is. So painters, teachers, musicians, etc. Across the lifespan for about 10 to 11 years of age. The man who was 100 years of age has been playing cards for over 90 years. Don't you try to stop him playing on those Monday night games because they're very important to him. Scale is fully validated, different designs, and different types of outcome, objective assessments and reports and so on. And with harmonious passion, obviously leading to more adaptive outcomes. This is the book. Those people interested in the book, this is the book that I wrote in a couple of years back. And today I'll be trying to look at some outcomes and using the OFFICE, Optimal Functioning in Society construct to summarize that. So to give you an idea what it is, it has 5 dimensions. One is psychological well-being. The other one is physical well-being. Performance in the field where you have a passion for work, either school, sports, whatever. Contributing to society, very important. In psychology, we kind of neglect that contribution to society. I think it's very important that we focus on how we can help others, the community, and so on. I was impressed to see today how many people at the center have this in their identity, that they want to help society, make a better place for all. Very, very interesting. And relationships. So passion will help lead to those outcomes, because especially harmonious passion, you're highly involved and you will persist in this meaningful activity, and it will facilitate some self-processes. So if I have a harmonious passion, I work hard and I'm connected with my environment, and I make this work environment a better place, for instance, because it will lead to better relationships, better performance, and so on. And it will also lead to optimal versus partial functioning. With harmonious passion, you can be highly performing in your field, the field where you're passionate, and still have a life outside of it. With obsessive passion, typically you don't. So there is partial functioning. You're functioning fairly well where you're passionate, but outside of it, it's poor functioning. So we'll be looking at each of these 5 elements and looking at the contribution of passion. This is one of my favorite pictures here. While I take a sip. Because it reminds me of my parents and how they enjoy life. My dad is 93, my mom is 90. They've been having some illness problems recently, but my dad still, wants to go back to the ergometer on his bike, and hitting the weights at 93, and is really an example for all of us. But this is what you should be doing, during retirement. Where's Jane? All right, Jane. And having time and smiling, and people are passionate for dancing, and it shows. And that's the way it should be. And the days of the rocking chair, this is over. This is what people do in their late age. They enjoy themselves. So if they're passionate for something, they have a great retirement. If not, well, that's another story. So we've done research with older individuals. They completed our passion scale for their favorite activity, and we look at well-being scales. And this is the findings. In green, this is harmonious passion. In red, obsessive passion. And these are correlations. So you see that the more you have harmonious passion, the more life satisfaction, the more vitality, the more meaning in life you have, because it's out of your harmonious passion. With obsessive passion, you don't get that. Actually, it might even increase anxiety and depression. So and we've replicated that in about 25 studies across the globe. This is solid findings. Harmonious passion leads to psychological well-being. And obsessive passion can undermine it, actually. So across the lifespan, we find this with a variety of activities. People with harmonious passion are the happy people. You need one activity because you engage in it typically 8-10 hours a week. So while you're happy 8-10 hours a week, this will increase your well-being. We know that harmonious passion leads to positive emotions. You may have heard of the work of Barb Fredrickson. Barb shows very clearly that experiencing positive emotions leads to well-being. The question is, how do you get those positive emotions? Engaging in an activity out of harmonious passion. So to give you an example, again, using senior citizens that were engaging in physical activity, we did a 3-time point measurement there, where we had at time 1, we assessed their passion for physical activity. At time 2, a couple of weeks later, we assessed their emotions while doing the activity. This is time 3, well-being. So as you can tell, harmonious passion at time 1 leads to experiencing positive emotions a couple of weeks later while doing the activity you're passionate about. And the positive emotions leads to an increase of well-being a couple of weeks later. So controlling for time 1 gives you an increase. So how do you get an increase in well-being? In engaging in activity that you have a harmonious passion for, because it leads you to experiencing positive emotions while doing it. Now, if you manage to engage in your passion activity 10 hours a week, that's 10 hours of additional positive emotions you experience while doing it. So when people say that there is the treadmill effect where you're happy and then you revert back and everything, not so if you have a harmonious passion for your activity. You keep on doing better all the time. So this is a very interesting finding. And obviously with obsessive passion, there is a negative effect. It's been replicated in the work environment in a couple of studies. So sustainable well-being, if you engage in activity you're passionate about out of harmonious passion, you maintain your psychological well-being. And this also explains some of the resilience effect. We're doing resilience research right now. Under duress, people who have a harmonious passion for what they love will experience some positive emotions that will predict doing well afterwards, and sometimes even better than when they started the stressful event. When you can't let go, we've done research on burnout. Teachers, nurses with obsessive passion for their work end up experiencing burnout. And the process is the following. They cannot let go of their activity, their work. It leads to conflict between their work that they love and the rest of their lives, and it leads to burnout. With harmonious passion, you're being protected because you love the activity and there's no conflict. And you're being protected against burnout. And this has been replicated in several countries, France, the Netherlands, etc. So very solid findings. Obsessive passion leads to burnout. In fact, Eric Cantona, was the famous, soccer player, was saying the following about retirement. Can you let go? If you have a passion in life and you pursue it to the exclusion of everything else, it becomes dangerous. When you stop doing this activity, it is as though you are dying. Death of the activity, which means not doing it anymore, is death in itself. So we've done studies on people who retire. So Jane, you're doing the right thing. What we find is this, and we've done some longitudinal studies. So 6 years before retirement, we assess their level of passion, and we see 6 years down the road how well they're doing. People who had a harmonious passion for their work and also had their life while working are doing very well afterwards. People who had an obsessive passion for work are struggling. They're not doing well in retirement psychologically. So, all right, let's look at health. Kim and I, before we're talking about the aspect of energy, and that's one thing that you get, when you're passionate, you have energy for what you do. You love what you do, and you bring in a lot of energy, and you're full of pep and everything, and zest, and during engagement. But there's a kicker. What happens afterwards? With harmonious passion, you end up having more energy afterwards than when you started out doing your activity. With obsessive passion, there's a loss of energy. And that's very interesting because energy is a variable which we don't study that much in psychology, but it's a basis of your health. It's a basis of a lot of things. But with obsessive passion, doing the activity you love take away some energy. With harmonious passion, you have more. This is our band. We call ourselves the Passionates. So it's out there because I want to sell my next CD. Not really. What I want to tell you, give you an example. When I was writing my book, for passion, I was writing 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, and for 5.5 weeks. So basically, I had to come up with something, 8 or 9 chapters I had to write. So 8 to 12, 1 to 5, 6 to 10, an hour in between. I knew I was obsessive. I knew at some point, after my wife would get back from Morocco, I would get into the regular kind of schedule. But within the hour, I could do 2 things: hit the couch or pick up my guitar. Sometimes I hit the couch, other times I pick the guitar. So during the 5 weeks or something, I wrote 2 songs, I remember. And I had more energy to get back and write again on the book because of the playing the music and the other passion that I had for music. So you can use that in your life. Use this other activity that you're passionate about to help you get along and get more energy. And that's what we did. Other stuff we've done looking at injuries. This is a great sport, right? I mean, cycling and everything. I mean, you guys in Michigan can relate to what we have in Quebec, which is some of this. Now, who's going to be cycling under those conditions? So we look at cyclists, and these are people with obsessive passion will try to engage in those kind of activities. People with harmonious passion will do it in the basement, put blocks on, put the TV on, and the Tour de France and everything, and they go. But the obsessive want the real thing, so they're out there. And they're likely to injure themselves. So, and people in France now are pursuing this kind of line of research on susceptibility to injuries. With dancers, we've looked at acute and chronic injuries. And if you're passionate, harmonious or obsessive, you'll engage in this physical exercise that is, dancing, and you'll be in great shape, and you're less likely to get injured with those acute injuries. Well, but if you're injured, what do? Can you let go? People with obsessive passion cannot, and they experience more chronic injuries, and which is counterintuitive, but at some point, the activity that they cannot let go of, they will have to, because they cannot dance anymore. So if you're interested, we've done some research on the dancers, chronic injury. Now, some people have challenged us and said, well, it's all good, with your basketball studies and stuff like that, but what about one very positive activity like yoga? I'm sure that just like the Nike ad, just do it and it's fine, right? I said, okay, let's try that. So we've done a few studies where we tested people doing yoga, have been doing yoga for a couple of years. At time 1 and time 2, we looked, these are outcomes, negative emotions, positive emotions while doing yoga, state anxiety, and negative physical symptoms in their life. And at time 1, we assessed their passion and trying to predict the changes in the outcomes. Now, if these guys are right and the Nike people are right and just doing it is okay, passion should not predict any kinds of outcomes. And what we found is the following. With obsessive passion, the only thing you get is an increase in negative emotions while doing yoga. You feel worse while doing yoga. With harmonious passion, all the goodies that we hear about, you will get it. So a decrease in negative emotions, an increase in positive emotion, decrease of state anxiety, and fewer negative physical symptoms in your life. So if you're about to engage in yoga, do it out of harmonious passion for the fun of it. And don't try to show off to other people that you can put your 2 legs behind your head at the same time or something, and because you'll get injured just like some of the dancers and everything. So there is something about passion even with yoga. Let's look at relationships now. Again, I like this picture because there's a lot in it, and I'll get to it in a second. Great picture. This is a team, and apparently the lady at the left-hand side there is presenting some results, and people are smiling and clapping and everything, and it shows that this looks like a cohesive unit. Look at the man in the middle. He's not frowning and say, gee, I'll never get the promotion. She's going to get it, my God, No, they're all happy about the situations, and what happens, they're experiencing positive emotions. We know that harmonious passion for any activity, work, sports, something, will get you those positive emotions. But positive emotions, when you experience those emotions, they just don't die there. You share them with people just like they do. They share the positive emotion and the smiling. And we know that positive emotions send a message. Well, it's been sending a message for 10,000 of years. Even before people had language, they could smile from afar. People could know that they could approach or avoid certain people who were, frowning or something. So smile is a message that you can come, we can bond, we can become friends. And that's exactly what our studies are showing, and I call this the Magic Johnson effect. Magic is the best. Touching, smiling, connecting with people, and making friendships that will last a lifetime, even against nemesis like Larry Bird. Great stories with these two. I don't have the time to get into that, but so the story is this: harmonious passion for work leads to positive emotions at work that leads to better relationships. So those emotions are important. How to get them is to get into the work domains, or we've replicated those results in tens of studies, sports, whatever. We follow people over time. We have other people assessing their quality of relationship, the same thing. Harmonious passion leads to positive emotions that leads to better relationships. So if you into your activity, not to show off, not to be better than other people, but connecting, having a good time, this is what you're going to get, friends. If not, you know what you're going to get. With obsessive passion, people will hate you at some point. They can't work with you. So this is another important findings. Even with supervisors and subordinates, same kind of thing. Coaches, we replicated those findings with Olympic athletes and their coaches. Also, your passion for an activity can actually undermine other aspects of your life. And we just finished the World Cup, right? So a lot of people passionate, for soccer and everything. So let's look at Johnny here. Looks like a passionate guy to me, right? I mean, looks like you. And he told his wife, he said, honey, I'm going to the game tonight. Promise, I'll be back by midnight. I'm going to be there. 3 in the morning, she says, he's done it again. So what we've done to test that kind of idea is that we went into the UK with a good friend of mine, Nikos Doumanis, and we tested people's passion for soccer in the stadiums in the UK and the level of conflict, the experience between their passion for soccer and their romantic life. And we assessed the quality of their romantic life, and the findings are the following. Obsessive passions lead to conflict. That leads to a negative relationship with their spouse. Now, to go back to Johnny and his wife, there's no gender effects. Could have been Jane with John staying at home and being upset and everything. There's really no gender effect. So this has been replicated several times. So the activity you have, and we're lucky, in academia or whatever work you do, we're lucky because we never engage in this, right? Come back from home, have this paper in mind that you're working on, and then your wife is talking to you, and then you start thinking about the activity, and you said, honey, are you there? Oh, yeah. It never happens to me, that's for sure. We've done research on romantic passion, and that's what's interesting is that you have 2 people that can be passionate for each other. So not just one person being passionate at the same time. So it leads to very interesting findings, and people interested can look at those publications. We're not getting into sexual passion, and that's kind of even more complex because then you get into different situations and so on. So this is just recently published. But let's talk about performance, right? Because usually when you come to a business school, right, all this stuff about holding hands and being happy, right, that's cool. But can we look at performance, the real stuff, right, Kim? All right. One of my favorite performer, Bob Dylan. We don't have enough time to talk about Bob, but how many records, over 100 million CDs back in the days, vinyls, sold. Still at age 76 performing on the road, still Nobel Prize winner, right? So unbelievable. So a great career. MJ, probably the best basketball player ever. 10 times NBA champion scorers. One of those years, the best defensive player of the year. So if you're the best scorer, best defensive player, you're the best player. So these guys are unbelievable. People might believe, like some people in the performance literature, that they have some kind of innate talent, right? It has to be, right, to be like Dylan or Jordan. But what people believe or forget is that when Robert Zimmerman, his real name started out, Bob Dylan in Minnesota, could not finish his sets. He was booed off stage. His bandmates didn't want to play with him. They thought he could not sing well. His nose, kind of crazy kind of singer or something, so they didn't like him. And MJ, the first time he tried out for his high school varsity team, he was cut. Did not make the team. Not good enough. But what they had a passion. They had a passion for their activity, music and basketball. And this is what MJ is saying. The greatest thing about the game of basketball is the passion and the love I have for it. This is not me, this is MJ. It's my true love for the game that kept me pushing to be the best player that I could be. What he's saying is that his passion led him to engage in what we call scientifically as deliberate practice. Maybe I'm not good now, but I will become good. And I'm willing to work hard. So the work of Anders Ericsson, engaging in certain activities that have the specific goal of improving. Things that it's not easy. And for me, I remember when I started playing the guitar. Anybody playing the guitar here? Some people? Yeah. About those bar chords, right? Jeez. I mean, my wrist I still hurt. It's crazy, but if you're passionate, you don't stop. You keep going, take a break, go back, and so on. This is deliberate practice. You want to get better, you work on the hard stuff. So the passion will get you that. That's what MJ is saying. So we have this model. The two types of passion that will lead you to engage in deliberate practice, that will lead you to performance. But there's a kicker. If you have a harmonious passion, you can still have a life and be happy while pursuing excellence. So we've done tons of studies looking at that, and now more people are doing it in other labs in the world. We've done a study with these guys. Actually, no, Clooney was not there for the study. Matt Damon was there, though, I remember. He completed some of our courses. I'm joking. So our participants were some from the province of Quebec, some of the top dramatic arts students. And we followed them over a whole semester. And we assessed passion for their art, actually, deliberate practice, and their teachers assessed their performance at the end of the school year. And what we have is, like I said, passion leading to practicing the hard stuff, leading to objective performance, but you can be happy while doing it. And this has been replicated in about 7 or 8 studies, including people on the national team, the junior national team, water polo, objective performance in school, honors students in psychology, and even professional athletes. We followed players for 15 years, starting in their teen years. Who's going to play professional hockey? Not necessarily the NHL, but Europe and so on. And counted the number of games they played in professional hockey. And the model holds up in predicting 15 years down the road who's going to make it. So there are 2 roads to excellence, the harmonious and the obsessive. And while both types of passion will lead you to reach excellence, are you going to be happy in the process? 15 years is a long time. If the passion is harmonious, the answer is yes. Do I have time for Bill Bradley? Well, yeah, maybe take 2 minutes for Bill. Bill Bradley was, this is for me and Kim mostly, because maybe some other people, because we're getting older, but the best basketball player of his generation in the mid-60s, played at Princeton before they had the NCAA tournament. In one game, semifinal, 56 points and everything. So a great basketball player, waiting right to go into the NBA when he was drafted by the New York Knicks, except he went to Oxford University because he had another passion for politics. So he went to do a master's in political science. And he played basketball for Italy. And one of the 2 years he was there doing his master's, they won the European Championship. And 2 years after, then he played for the Knicks for 11 years. He was an all-star 1 year, and then they won the championship twice. One of the smartest team ever, I guess, they had with the Knicks. But it's possible to have a harmonious passion and to reach the very highest level, both in basketball. He became a senator of the state of New Jersey. His passion for politics led him also in other areas. So the summers, while he was not playing for the Knicks, he would go to Washington and learn his trade and everything. And in '99, as you remember, the famous election, it was between Bush and Gore, but the runner-up for the Democratic Party was Bill Bradley. So it's possible to have multiple passion if they are harmonious in nature. But to be more contemporary, some of you who follow football may know this guy, actually from Montreal, Laurent Duvernay-Tardif, who now is an offensive lineman for the Kansas City Chiefs. And while playing for the Chiefs, became a doctor, studying med school at McGill. And he says, when you have 2 passions, you don't count the hours and work as hard as you can. You love both. You love football, you love med school, and he's now Dr. MD Laurent Duvernay-Tardif. So it's possible to do it. Now let's look at contribution to society. And that was something that I was very happy to see today with some of the students at the center, that people want to contribute and make society a better place. And so the environmentalist David Suzuki was saying that without passion, change is not possible. And he's right. All of the areas where we've done research on passion for a cause, different cause, the environment, health, whatever, all people involved have a very high level of passion, which is great, which means they'll be persisting, they'll be working really hard, but also there are different ways of trying to engage in promoting the cause that you want to achieve. We've done research among others in politics. And what we find, and this is, for those who don't know, this man is René Lévesque, and what René Lévesque wanted to do is to achieve the independence of Quebec, but what he wanted to do was in a more democratic way. So he created, a party, Parti Québécois. But other people in Quebec want the independence in some other ways, through violence, back in the days. So we've looked at people's passion and the kind of actions they'd be willing to endorse. And what we find is that with harmonious passion, all democratic means are acceptable, but there's a line they won't cross. With obsessive passion, anything goes. You're willing to take arms, whatever, to reach your cause, which is independence. The same thing with the environment. A lot of people want to promote the environment, the different ways of going about it. This is Paul Watson from the Sea Shepherd Society, and his mission in life is to promote all creatures in the sea. And one of the ways he's willing to do is to sink boats that won't respect that. So there are different ways of reaching that, but at some point, depending on the type of passion you have, you may go in different directions. And that's what our research suggests. How do you go about promoting the cause that you want to reach? And people, they have different ways. Another area we've gone into is your passion for your faith. And we've done research on Islam. And what we find is that people who have an obsessive passion for Islam, when being threatened, they want to lash out. They want to hurt. They feel hurt, they want to hurt. When people have a harmonious passion for their faith, they want to turn the other cheek. They're not willing to engage in violent action. So you have people just as passionate for their faith, for a cause, for the environment, and so on, but the type of passion they have will lead them to engage in different types of behaviors to reach the cause they want to promote. So we're pursuing that kind of research on terrorism right now, and counterterrorism as well, with a good friend of mine, former students, Jocelyn Belanger at NYU Abu Dhabi, and we've got some interesting results again. Now, this picture is there just to remind people you want to promote a cause, but make sure you don't forget yourself in the equation. We've done research published in Journal of Personality on passion for a cause, and this is study 3. Well, we find that when people go abroad on a mission, if you have an obsessive passion for helping other people, save some time for yourself to protect yourself. Because on the way back, if your passion is obsessive, you cannot let go and you will experience PTSD. And the Red Cross came to us because they had this problem where some people coming back from abroad with PTSD, they could not understand it. Because people with obsessive passion want to be there. I'm only there for 3 months. I'm going to be there 24/7. Think only about the cause, cannot let go, come back, ruminate, experience PTSD. People with harmonious passion are not affected this way. In fact, some of them do extremely well on the way back. With obsessive passion, they suffer. So the cause is extremely important, but it should never be more important than yourself. Never. All right, so the research I've been presenting so far was different studies, and some studies looking at psychological well-being, other studies looking at physical well-being, other studies at relationship. Now we've designed and validated a scale that assesses those 5 dimensions. And now we're doing new research. This is what I'll be presenting is unpublished, looking at the role of passion in predicting those 5 dimensions. So this first studies, obviously the scale is valid and reliable, etc., but looking at the role of passion in predicting the 5 dimensions of optimal functioning in society. So harmonious passion leading to all of these 5 indices positively, and obsessive passion leading to negative effect on performance, relationships, and health. So this, except for performance, replicates really what we've seen in those different studies. So we're pursuing the performance aspect of it because it might be something there. We believe that under certain conditions, obsessive passion will lead positively to performance, and other situations negatively. We followed nurses over 7 years. Same findings. And the only thing with obsessive passion is that it will undermine psychological well-being. So what I've been presenting with these different studies, and obviously there's much more, is replicated in those studies with the optimal functioning in society construct. So basically, it's possible to be fully thriving if you have a harmonious passion. You will get all the goodies, psychological well-being and health and relational well-being and performance, and you'll be contributing to society, because to me, that's the final stand. Are you in such good shape that you're willing to think about others and help others? That's the ultimate, stand. That's the ultimate, you want to go all the way. In fact, some people said, and I haven't found that, but apparently Abraham Maslow was about to change before his death, was getting ready to change the pyramid to include this last dimension of contributing to society, because to me that's the last part that not everybody is willing to go the extra mile. Now, some of new questions we're pursuing. Who's the happiest? So typically we take passion and make predictions, and now we're changing this, we're turning this on its head and say, okay, and we've done this in several studies, let's go in massive testing, 5,000, 10,000 people. Let's take the upper quartile. Who are these people? And what we find in 4 different studies is that the happiest people are the people who have multiple types of passion, for which they have a very high level of harmonious passion. So, harmonious passion for your work, for your leisure activities, for stuff with your family, for traveling, for so on. Everywhere you turn, you have a boost of energy that leads you to engage in other activity because of your harmonious passion. Now, the other thing which is important is that not everything we do in life is fun. What happens about the chores and everything? So in a couple of studies, we've looked at that as well. But these people, they're not crazy. Right? They're not passionate to take the garbage out. I would hire these guys any time, right? So what they do, however, is that when the stuff that they don't like, they do it still out of choice. Yeah, I know. But, it's good for the family. I'll do it, no problem. I'm happy to do it. So they don't feel like they have to. They feel like they want to, which is a very, very important distinction. So even the stuff that is not fun, they don't feel the pressure of having to do it. They feel it comes from them out of their choice. So that's kind of cool. So we're pursuing that now we have the 5th study is a diary study we're conducting right now. Is obsessive passion all that bad? Obviously, the answer is no. It can give you something. We've looked at performance and some of the top athletes and so on. It's just that there is a down cost, a huge cost on your health, relationships, and so on. And there is another way of doing things too. I remember talking with some ladies on the water polo national team, and I was surprised looking at their questionnaires. So we had follow-ups, and they were telling me, yeah, we're doing well, everything's good. I said, yeah, but I see that you have a very high level of obsessive passion, and I don't see any conflict from what you report with other aspects of your life. What about your boyfriend? Oh, we dumped the boyfriend. Okay. What about work? Oh, we don't work. No, we don't work. Okay. So that was 2 years before the Olympics, right? So then afterward, what about so on and so on? What they had done, they had evacuated everything from their life, living 5 to an apartment, to make sure that the only thing they were thinking about was water polo. And when I told them, do you realize that some of your teammates on your team do things very differently? They said, yeah. I could have told them this is not the way to go. And usually passionate people, you cannot confront them right away. You have to, themselves have to start asking the questions. And when they start asking questions, then they're curious, and then there's a road, there's a window of opportunity there. So I said, yeah, oh yeah. How many hours a day do you spend on your craft? Well, about 7, 8. We do the weights, and we do the pool, and we do this, and then the video and everything. Okay, what about the other 7, 8 hours? Well, some of your teammates do things differently. They work or part-time, or they do stuff. And then by asking questions, they get information. And sometimes this is the inroad to making changes. So that is something that was kind of interesting, that to what extent are you willing to let go of everything to reach a goal? And it can come back and bite you from behind, because the worst thing is to overthink about something you love. You ruminate about it, and at some point it comes to ruin your life. And actually, it can lead you to underperform. When you focus on only one thing, and then the time, for me, I blew the three-point shot, right? That was my objective in life, was to make the three-point shot, and I blew it. So when you have only one thing, it's a lot of pressure on you. So you need some time off. And we're doing research along those lines with actually elite runners and burnout. And what we find is that if these elite runners can engage in another activity that they're passionate about, and it is harmonious, it will protect them from burnout. So it's not only doing something else you're passionate in a harmonious way, protection. If you're obsessive about the other thing you're doing, it's even worse. All right. We've done several studies on the development of passion, and we'll get into that if there are some questions. But the main issue is that as parents, as educators, as teachers, so on, I guess we have to get out of the way more than anything else. We're too controlling for the good of our students and our kids. They need autonomy support. I did not say laissez-faire. You want to remain involved, but you have still to be around without being completely over everything. You know, the helicopter thing, right? I mean, this is not good. Two things that we find from our research: if you're too controlling, either the kid will never develop a passion for this activity, or if he or she has decided that this is the activities for him or her, it will turn into an obsessive passion. So what you want to do is provide this soft guidance, be the taxi driver to the activities that they have selected to engage in. But don't overpressure them, because it will kill the very passion they may have started, or worse, turn into obsessive passion. So autonomy support is a big thing. In the corporate world, providing resources and not being too demanding. If the demands are too high, if you love your work, you're going to be working more and more to reach the demands. And if the resources are not there, it will lead to burnout. So, are non-passionate people doomed? Well, it depends. But from the research we're doing right now, they're not doing extremely well. So we're pursuing that line of study. Obviously, you could be still motivated, and if the motivation is more autonomous in nature, you might doing still maybe pretty well. But on average, from our 2 studies we're doing right now, they're doing not well at all. In fact, if you look at some of the depression inventory, one of the questions on that scale is, have you lost interest for some of the stuff you used to love? So that's an indication that not having any passion of some sort, cannot be that productive. And some friends sometimes phone me, and I've been talking about this, during the 2 days I've been here. But one is a colleague at another university, and he said, "Bob, can I talk to you? I don't have any passion right now." And he said, "Okay." He said, "What?" And the question I use sometimes is, what were you doing when you were a teenager? See, the problem sometimes with us, and I've never heard this before, but I think we believe that individually, we have to get serious, right? Go to college, family, kids, oh my God, work. And now I need to let go of those fun activities, because now life is serious. Not at all. You can still do it. In fact, you can share those activities you're passionate about with your kids and family and stuff like that. So I asked him, and he said, "Well, I was playing the guitar. It was great, And I said, "Where's the guitar?" He said, "In the basement." Well, you know what to do. That's what he's doing right now. And now his wife now is playing guitar with him. And the kids are learning the piano, which is great. That would have been pushing it, right? I mean, to have the kids play the guitar with them. Let them decide what they want to do by themselves. And they're playing the piano. So from being just a sport-oriented family, they're now a music-oriented family as well, which is going to give some kind of harmony and different flavor to this family, just because of the parents asking themselves how to be rekindled with their original passion. And that's usually where it happens, the teen years. That's why it's so important that we don't put any undue pressure on the kids to do the stuff we love, because then they might perceive that our love is conditional upon them behaving the way we want them to behave, and that would be terrible. It has to be completely independent. So that's another area that we're getting into, the non-passion part. So some applied take-home message. I guess, I hope I won't have to convince you that trying to cultivate harmonious passion for some activity in your life, and if already you have some, remember, to take the activity seriously without taking yourself too seriously. That means leave your ego at the door, and if you're lucky, when you get back, it won't be there anymore. Leave it there. Leave it outside. Have fun. Do the best you can, though. Don't be a tourist. Do the best you can. But I remember I was in Cancun. This is a great story. I was in Cancun maybe like 10 years ago. And the Club Med, they had a great setup, glass boards, complete basketball court next to the ocean. Just paradise, right? So morning, hit the weights, afternoon, go and play. And there was this guy from Indiana. I remember it was Indiana because I got upset and I said, Bobby Knight, get the hell out of this. So I was pretty hot, hitting shots and everything. And at some point, this guy, Club Med, elbow in the gut. I said, Jesus. I said, maybe it's an accident. Next time, same thing. I said, what's your problem? He said, well, you cannot take it and everything. I said, Cancun, Club Med, no medal here, no Olympics, take it easy, man. He said, well, I said, go back to Bobby Knight, But some people just, my God, leave your ego at the door, gee. Include other fun activities in your life. Why? Because it will help you to have this. If you have an obsessive passion for something, by including something else, it will help subside the obsessive passion for your main activity. So that is very helpful. And you know what? It's good for the ego to fail at something, not to be good at it when there are no dire consequences. I was mentioning this today. You know what? The first thing that Paul McCartney does in the morning? He paints. He paints. He's been painting for years. Bob Dylan, painter, sculpture. Tony Bennett, painting. Another creative activity. And you know what? They don't care if they're good or not. They love it. It helps them. That's another passion. And McCartney, recently, right? Egyptian Station, new album out. And he's touring again, starting very soon in September. He starts in Toronto, his tour at 76. This is unbelievable. What I'm saying is that these guys, like Bennett and Dylan and McCartney, have had long career, not because of obsessive passion, because they have several passions in their life. So that the focus is not only on this activity as such, but they still can perform and they really love what they do still. So it's something to take into consideration. This is also important, try to improve and grow. Setbacks are there to help you along the way, and obviously you want to prevent some dire consequences, but you want to learn from the setbacks. And understand the functionality of obsessive passion. If you feel that you have an obsessive passion for something, ask yourself the question, why? We have 4 studies in a paper we published last year that shows that obsessive passion typically is a compensatory mechanism. You overinvest somewhere because something is not happening in your life. You lack the need, satisfaction, the pleasure elsewhere, so you put your eggs in the same basket. So ask yourself the question, why am I thinking only about this activity? And take a step, backward and look at your life and see if something can be improved elsewhere. And again, it could be that everything is okay, but you want to include some other fun activity. But it could be that you're suffering somewhere and you're compensating. Because typically we should have someone with engaging different activities out of harmonious passion that leads to self-growth, both within the activity and as a person. So I started out by saying that positive psychology is a scientific study and the informed application that enables individuals and communities to thrive. I hope I will have convinced you that passion is important. So take your passion and make it happen, but harmoniously. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob. We have a little tradition here where we provide you a little token.
Thank you.
It's a virtuous cycle toward harmonious passion. We would like to excuse those of you who need to leave at 5 o'clock. For those of you who don't and who have questions, we'll just stay here.